Like Purdue, it's just an example. Purdue losing to Fresno State is okay. We still win the Big Ten West. For me,
Billy Napier gets fired. I'm just kidding.
hey, really the best time of the year. I will be seated watching Red Zone for 7 hours on Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a new episode of Backyard Banter. Tanner, James, Johnny, if you guys are new here, please subscribe. And we are very happy to be joined by one of my friends, Alex Chasen. He is an NBA YouTuber. You can follow. You can go subscribe to him on YouTube at Alex Sports CHASEN on YouTube. We're excited to finally get some NBA hoops talk and break it down with someone that knows a lot about the game.
Yeah, with football dwindling down, it's going to be sweet to kind of hop on and talk about the NBA because we don't show it enough love sometimes, so we're hopping on now.
Yeah, I'm excited. Can't wait to ask them some questions, maybe go through MVP and stuff like that. Maybe see if they think the Pacers are legit or not. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm excited.
And now our conversation with Alex Chasen. Like I said, we're now joined by Alex Chasen. Alex, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, thanks for coming on. So we're just going to get right into it. One of the biggest topics that I've seen probably over the last 2 weeks, especially with the Joel Embiid injury now going out for, it's undisclosed how long he's out for with the knee injury. How do you feel about the minimum season game requirement in order to qualify for All-NBA in certain awards? And just if you were to change it, how would you change it?
I think with the new CBA that came into this season, looking at it like last offseason, great idea because I feel like there's a lot of guys who don't play enough games to get these awards. And the guys that do play a lot of games that maybe aren't, putting up maybe like 30 points per game, they're not getting enough love because other guys are just putting up, insane stats, but only playing like, 60 games or whatever it is. So now it is 65 games. That's the amount of games you have to play. And I like it. But I mean, when you see Joel Embiid go out, this is different because he's only played maybe 30 something games. But let's just say he played like 55 games. He wouldn't be able to get it, even though if he had like an amazing season, which he's on that pace right now, obviously it stopped. So I like it, but I feel like this offseason, Adam Silver might look to change it. But I don't know if I would agree with that because I don't think Joel Embiid should get MVP this season because even though he put up these crazy stats, and even if he played like 59 games, I probably wouldn't give it to him anyways because obviously he couldn't get it. But then I just think there's other guys like Jokic, who's a warrior who plays a bunch of games, or SGA, another Iron Man, another Iron Man who plays a bunch of games usually. So I would kind of lean towards those guys. So I don't know if I would change it, but I feel like if I'm in Adam Silver's head, he probably might. But again, that's more of a CBA thing. That's the players union, which is the NBA's players union is like the strongest out of all the 4 or 5 major sports. The players have all the control. So I don't know if they're going to want to change that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially this kind of all started with the Kawhi Leonard and the load management, and
Right.
with the Spurs with Pop would sit out stars on nationally televised games.
The other half of it, yeah.
And the ratings in the NBA, it's no secret they've gone down. Regular season ratings they only average around 1 million viewers per national televised game. And I think I kind of agree with you in the sense that someone that only played 58 games, I don't think should get MVP, even though Joel Embiid was unreal, probably one of the best players in the league. If we're going to give our MVPs, would have been my MVP back to back. He's averaging 36 points a game around them when he got hurt. So it's just unfortunate, but I still think it's something that needs to be played.
You talked about Adam Silver maybe taking a step back, next year and being like, hey, maybe 17 games isn't like, maybe they can miss more. Like, because I look at it as Tyrese Haliburton went down with a hamstring injury and he was out, a week and a half, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
And that right there is at least 5-6 games, depending on their schedule. Well, if you have one of those injuries that are natural, right, like a hamstring injury like that, like those things are gonna happen. So 65 games for me, I think that's still a ton of games, and I think maybe they lower that down to 60 minimum because obviously Embiid, a lot of people were getting upset because it looked like a lot of them were rest days, but now these rest days, maybe in the back of my mind, now he's having surgery, maybe he was hurt and people didn't know it. I think 65 is like too much still. I think if you play 60 games, you should still be, awarded MVP. This year's going to be weird. I think no doubt it's going to be weird because the best player is not going to win MVP. Like, that's just the truth of the matter.
I mean, I think the next conversation is, and I don't agree with this, is do they lower the games? Because if these guys can't even play a full season besides the Mikal Bridges of the world, but that's not obviously an MVP caliber, but guys like that, like these MVP stars can't even play a full season. So then does the NBA consider lowering the games? I think they've talked about 72 before. Yeah. I don't want that as being kind of, I mean, I love watching basketball, so I wouldn't want it in that standpoint. But I mean, that could be a conversation if these guys can't even play a full season. I could agree with the 60. I think lowering it more than that, I don't know. I can't see like, 55 being enough.
Yeah.
I could see 60 though.
Yeah. I was kind of rewatching Last Dance recently, and all those people back then, is they're Warriors, like you said, Iron Man, always played, 82 games, 81, and it's
Whether
just,
they had the flu or not.
yeah. I mean, these guys are now being paid hundreds of $1 millions to play.
Mhm.
I think you should be able to play. Tanner, we kind of talked about Tyrese Halliburton. I know you want to ask a question about your beloved Pacers.
Yeah, I want to get into the Pacers. So they are currently the 6th seed. I think they have the 3rd easiest schedule remaining, and they have the most off days remaining in the league, so they can really do some damage in the standings. But I want to ask you if you think they can win a playoff series, or maybe make a little bit of a run, win a playoff.
Absolutely. I mean, especially with acquiring Pascal Siakam, even prior to getting Pascal Siakam, I thought they could be like a surprise team that could make some noise in the first round, depending on who they play. But being that 6th seed, being out of the play-in, they're an actual playoff team. They can kind of, I mean, it's up to like what happens in the play-in as of right now. But getting Pascal Siakam, that showed to me the Pacers are like buying into this year, which I loved. I wanted the Raptors to trade Pascal for so long because he's just like, they're just in a weird spot, the Raptors. It made no sense for him to be there. Same with OG. Then the Pacers getting him, I mean, he fits perfectly with kind of complimenting Tyrese, who, of course, is like one of the best playmakers in the league, can score the ball pretty much at every level. So, I mean, I think they can definitely surprise a team in the first round. And I love like their depth, like from like 1 to, I'd say probably like 11. I trust any of them being on the court. Like their rotation is so deep. They don't usually go that deep, but I love their roster, especially for the future. And then buying in right now, getting someone like Pascal, it only makes that better.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think that TJ McConnell might be the most underrated player in the league. Every time he plays, he puts up good numbers. He makes winning plays. I think he's a winning player.
He just doesn't look like he belongs out there. Like that.
Yeah, he's just undersized. If he wasn't undersized, he'd probably be a starting point guard because he does like he's so underrated. Like he knows where the spots are on the court. He's a mid-range jumper king. I see that all the time. And he's a good guy. He's just tiny. But other than that, I respect him.
Yeah. Shout out to the Pacers though. Tanner, obviously he talks about the Pacers a lot, and we were talking when they made the trade, and I'm like, they finally bought in, right? We weren't sure if the Pacers were, they were good enough, they had enough skill to win, but this adds a little help defensively as well, a little bit. Like Pascal's not a world beater defensively, but for a Pacers team that was scoring 140 and giving up 130, this kind of helps. And you are actually seeing that they're not giving up 130 points
99 yesterday.
Yeah,
but it was the Hornets. But
yeah. Hornets are awful, man. Holy cow.
You talked about briefly the Raptors being kind of in that the middle of nowhere tier. We talk about all the time. The worst place you can be in any sport is in mediocrity, and right in the middle. The worst thing every year over and over is having the 10th pick, the 9th pick. The odds that you land a Donovan Mitchell type player, he was drafted around there, is just very low. Is there any other teams in that realm that you would like to see kind of make a move and kind of get out and blow it up, similar like to my Magic did a few years ago, traded Vucevic like that, either blow it up or maybe try to, if they're in that middle, get a big name to make another move?
I could talk about the Raptors all day. I mean, they annoy me, especially Masai Ujiri, but he finally traded Pascal and OG. But another team like that would be the Chicago Bulls, big time. Which I believe you guys are in Illinois, so I don't know if you're a Bulls fan.
I'm the only Bulls fan. Yeah.
I actually made a YouTube video on this yesterday because now that Zach LaVine is out for the season, I mean, you can still trade him, but like no one's gonna want him. No one wanted him when he was healthy, or at least the Bulls weren't getting what they wanted for him. And now you're stuck with a max contracting Zach LaVine, a player option for Alonzo Ball this summer, which he's going to accept because who knows if we ever get a contract ever again in the NBA, because we don't really know if we'll touch a court again. DeMar DeRozan luckily comes off the books, but unless you trade him in the next 4 days, he's gonna walk for nothing, where you could get value for him in the next 4 days. But I've heard nothing from like a reliable source that the Bulls want to do anything. They've just been kind of like content with where they are. The only guy I could see possibly getting moved is Alex Caruso, because he's valuable to any competitive team and he's not making the most money. It's only around like $9 million a year. The only reason why I can rattle that off because I was really looking at it yesterday. I don't know the contracts that well, but I was looking at all this money stuff yesterday for the Bulls, but they're kind of stuck. And then I do like Kobe White. I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere, where last year I believe he only averaged like 9 points per game. And now he's averaging around 20 points per game, killing it, finally figured something out on the court. So I don't know if you necessarily would so-called build around him, but at least that's like a young piece you have. How about Patrick Williams? I mean, he's a big question mark that hasn't really put two and two together. An
All I
expiring.
heard is that he's the next Kawhi Leonard. He's the next Kawhi Leonard.
I
Oh,
never,
yeah.
I never understood the draft pick.
I mean, a high pick. I mean, I remember
He didn't even start in
He-
college,
he-
and he was a
yeah,
first round draft pick.
he went to Florida State, and I'm a big Gator fan. And I usually keep up. My mom's a big Florida State fan. Usually keep up with Florida State. Didn't hear a lot of his name.
You didn't know about it.
Yeah, I didn't
You
hear.
didn't
Yeah,
know.
I think the Bulls are another team that should do what the Raptors just did, blow it up. It's just hard because you're not going to be able to trade Zach LaVine. You're not going to really be able to trade Lonzo. Vucevic, I forgot about Vucevic, another guy who's on there for another 2 years after
Who
this
they
year.
just signed, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. It just
Yeah.
got signed fairly recently.
Yeah, he's got 2 more years, I believe, on his contract. But they're another team that needs to blow it up, but they haven't yet. And now one of their guys has just lost more value. So they're another team like the Raptors that are kind of like middle. And they were last year too.
Yep.
And Lonzo Ball messed it all up, which wasn't his fault. He got
Yeah.
hurt. Surgery didn't work. He needed another surgery. But when he was healthy, they were like the first seed in the Eastern Conference. Well, it's been so long since he's been out, but was that like the 21-22 season?
Yeah, 21,
Yeah.
22, yeah.
Yeah.
Half of the year, they were like the first, second seed in the Eastern Conference. They were playing amazing because Lonzo Ball, he does wonders on the court with his, passing ability. And he was shooting well at that time too. He finally figured out how to shoot a three. And then once he got hurt, they've just been middling ever since.
You look at the NBA. We were going to talk about all these teams up top, in the East and the West. They all have superstars, like plural. Like they don't just have one guy that's going out there and wrecking the league. The problem with these teams that you're mentioning, the Raptors, the Bulls, who do you build around? Like you're not going to build around Vooch. He's too old and he's not even that great, right? Kobe White is having an amazing second half to the first half of the season, right? Kind of just getting on now, shooting the ball very, very well, but you're not going to build your team around him. Patrick Williams, bust. Like that name, that title is already associated, with him now. I'd assume it's been better as of late, but again, there's nobody for the Bulls to build around. And as a Bulls fan, it's like, what do I have to look forward to? Like there's absolutely nothing to look forward to besides maybe hopefully hitting somebody in the draft that's unreal, which I don't know, right? And then Lonzo Ball, that would be a miracle, right? If he can come back and be what he was 2 years ago. But otherwise, we're just in
mediocrity.
They're forever. There's no one to build around.
They're in 9th right now. If they were to draft someone, it would be with the 13th pick that conveys to 13th to 15th pick around there.
And then next year, they have a top 10 protected pick. If it falls outside of that, it goes to San Antonio from that DeMar trade. So unless you guys suck next year, like really, really bad, which you may, depending on what happens this offseason, you might not even have your pick next year. Even if it falls to 11, you won't have your pick.
Yeah, we have a lot of Bulls fans that are friends that are fans. So they're not a tough conversation for them to have. Recently in the NBA, starting kind of last year, the scoring has been out of this world. The past 3 weeks, I mean, Cat scored 60, Luka scored 70, Embiid. I mean, you can just rattle off Booker. All these people scored over 60, in some cases 70. Because what's kind of your take on the scoring of the NBA, even in the past 10 years from when it's escalated?
I'm going to start off by saying I don't think the defense is necessarily worse. I'll put it this way. I think there's better defenders now than there ever has been. But besides those guys, the other guys I feel like are kind of slacking. And I don't know if you agree with that or not. What do you guys think about that? Like there's better defenders than there's ever been, but there's also more guys slacking than there's ever been. So it kind of makes it look like there's bad defense.
I haven't heard that take, and I really like that take because I haven't heard that one. Like you're not knocking the defense. Like you're still showing love for these guys dropping 70.
Yeah, I mean, for every OG Anunoby, there's a Trae Young, and that'll be one of the better perimeter defenders. Or there's a Tyrese Halliburton that's not the strongest defensively. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate that, but I also think the pace of play has to deal with that a lot. Again, I was looking back at the scores from the 80s and 90s, and it's 80-78 final. And sometimes
so gritty though.
It is gritty, but it's hard to watch. And the spacing, the pace, until recently, I remember the Spurs teams, and when they won their championships in 03-05, they had Tim Duncan, David Robinson, the two bigs. Now you look out, and we talked about this the other day on the pod, there's teams that don't even have a traditional center. If you can't shoot, you're a negative asset on the floor, unless you defend like Rudy Gobert does. But I mean, Tanya, what do you think?
Yeah, you mentioned the pace of play. I think for me, that's part of it. You look at teams like the Pacers who love to shoot it as soon as they get the ball, and the Hawks. Like I think the pace of play for some of those teams like in certain matchups that makes other teams get more possessions, and with more possessions, obviously you're gonna have more points.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's pace of play. And then I also agree with your take about like outside of the primary defenders, it's just very lackluster defensively. So yeah.
But I think there's like at least like two ultra elite defenders, if not one on every team, which it used to not be like that. Like back in the day, you could think of like, 5, 6, 7 really good defenders and no one really cared about anyone else. But like there's still great defenders. But then there's so many guys that just, don't really try. Or like we're talking about the scoring. It's like I was watching the Celtics, Drew Holiday's like at the rim and he passed it out to I forget who for a three. It's like just go up with the layup. Or here, you can even jump over to college basketball. Our coach here, Nate Oates, he live and dies by the three. Like if it's not a three, he doesn't care, or if it's a layup, but mid-range, he'll get mad at you if you take a mid-range shot. Like he's like this big mathematician, and he's all about like whatever's
It's all
statistically.
All about the analytics. And
Bama's got some snipers though.
Yeah, I was gonna say
they shoot it really well.
I know we're talking about the NBA, but Marcus Sears got snubbed from the Kuzi list. Top 10 point guard. He should be on that list.
Absolutely. I mean, I love our team. I love Nate Oates. He's a great coach, a great mind. But if you're open in the mid range, you can take it.
Yeah.
But the mid range shot is completely almost frowned upon now. I mean, Kobe and Jordan used to do work from the mid range, and besides Booker, Durant, and Zion, not really in the mid range, but Zion doesn't shoot threes. Those are kind of only prominent players. Yeah,
DeMar mid range.
Prominent players.
Hey, DeMar last year, man. DeMar last year was midi, and that
And the Bulls were in 10th place in the plan. Anyway, I'm gonna go through the standings real quick on each side, and each of us is gonna name our most surprising team and our most disappointing team.
There we go.
So far. So in the West, 1 and 2 is OKC and/or Minnesota. However, it turns out they're right there even. I was doing this as one of them was playing last night. So whatever, they're right there, 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are the Clippers and Denver. Again, they're right there, 3 and 4. The Clippers, best record in the NBA since December 1st, and the best offense in the NBA since December 1st. 5th is Sacramento, 6 Phoenix, 7 New Orleans, 8 Dallas, 9 the Lakers, 10 Utah, 11 Houston, 12 Golden State. So we'll start with the West. Most surprising team, most disappointing. Alex, you can go first.
I would say I'm not surprised by the Thunder. I've been on them for a while. SGA is my favorite player.
Yeah.
I want to win MVP biasly, but I think it will go to Jokic.
Yeah.
That's funny. I have both of them right there. But I would most surprising in a good way, I'll say the Timberwolves. Because last year I thought last year they were going to do what they were doing this year. Basically the same team, relatively. And I thought they had the perfect makeup, but they were just like, whatever. This year, they finally figured it out. Rudy Gobert and Cat are actually playing well together because last year there was a lot of in-house fighting, at least as an outsider looking in. Mike Conley fits a role perfectly. He's a veteran. He knows how to not run a team, but he doesn't need to be in the way. He lets Ant do his thing. And then Cat and Gobert are actually playing well off each other. And now Gobert is, probably top 3 in DPOY. So, I mean, it's all flowing. Someone I wish was better was McDaniels. I thought he'd be a lot better this year, but he hasn't really been. He was a great complimentary piece, but I thought he was going to take a major leap, but he hasn't done that. But surprising in a good way, I'd say the Timberwolves.
What do you got, T?
Yeah, I agree with the Timberwolves.
Me too, man.
That was a team that I think we did our NBA predictions preseason. Yeah. I think I might have had them in the play-in. I did not see this at all at the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards is must-see TV for me. I mean, he's one of those players that in the first half, I feel like he just doesn't even try. And then as soon as the second half hits, he goes for like 25 in the second half. So he's one of those guys that has like a switch and he can just turn it on whenever. So I love him.
Yeah, I was going to pick the Timberwolves. I wanted to pick somebody else, but I can't. Like the Timberwolves, we went to a game. Yeah. We were in Miami. We watched them play the Heat. And Anthony Edwards had 2, maybe 4 points at half and ended up dropping 28 or something like that. And that's what he's able to do. And that being paired with Cat, who's been playing solid. And obviously, we've been talking about Rudy Gobert, but my issue, and I'll get into it maybe later, but the West to me, I hate using the word fraudulent. I just think the West is full of teams that I don't know if they're ready this year to win a championship. And when I look at the top, the top of the rankings and standings and everything. So maybe that's a terrible take, but I look at like OKC and Minnesota, like OKC last year showed signs that this year they were going to be really good. And that continued to roll over. I just don't know. Hey, are they ready to win an NBA Finals and a championship? I'm not sure, right? I guess we'll find out. But Minnesota has to be the team for me. I just didn't see the three working out as well as they did. And hey, they started off hot, they continued hot, and they're just keeping it rolling. So
Yeah, I also have Minnesota. I really like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. What he's been doing. He was kind of shunned when he was on the Pelicans and whatnot. Another team, the Clippers. Everyone was killing them. They were really bad once they got James Harden. But now Kawhi and Paul George are kind of elevating their play, both All-Stars this year. Alex, I was going to ask you, you're a big Thunder guy. Do you think the Thunder could win the finals this year?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
They're too young.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I think they're missing like another complimentary star to SGA because
Yeah.
SGA in no way is he carrying the team. There's a lot of great guys like Chet. Give him a couple years, he'll probably be like a top 15 player in the league. And they have, Josh Giddey's really good, but I think he's to be the one to move if you're going to move someone. Because I mean, don't take this like overly seriously, but it's like Russell Westbrook and James Harden, completely different. But I mean it in the way of like I feel like Josh Giddey has like untapped potential that SGA is kind of holding from him.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like he has a lot of great value in a trade. You're not going to do it now, obviously, but like maybe this offseason, if you really want to, again, they're first place, so you could do nothing and give them a couple years and they'll be, true champion contenders. But if there's anyone to move, I think you could move Josh Giddey because he's kind of just redundant to SGA and he has a lot of potential that's probably being just hidden right now.
Like you said, they're still sitting on that trove of draft picks.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
go out
Yeah.
and move. They can't. It's kind of ironic. I think they're missing a Paul George like player, and maybe Jalen Williams can become that. He's been really good at Santa Clara. I'm saying his name right? I'm not tripping. Yeah, Jalen Williams. He's been really good. But again, is he gonna come into being a 26 point per game scorer? I'm not saying you need to score that much because SGA is giving you 31 a night. But the kind of like what you said, the secondary score. I want to talk about kind of a disappointing team in the West, and mine is Memphis. Obviously, all John Morant stuff. He was really good in about the 10 games that he played. But I mean, this was a team the past two seasons have been in the top part of the West, and now they've been really bad.
Irrelevant.
I mean, they played your Celtics last night, had 8 guys that were dressing. I mean, Scottie Pippen Jr. was out there running around for them. But
look at this injury report from last night. That's what I was. This is all the Memphis guys that were out.
Yep, look at that.
Unreal.
Just Jaylen Brown for the Celtics. But yeah, like you were saying, they're definitely disappointing, but none of it's really necessarily their fault besides John Morant missing the first 25 games for whatever he did. But they're disappointing, but for like a real disappointing team that's not due to injuries, the Lakers.
Yeah.
Like I thought they had the greatest offseason out of any team in the NBA this summer. They kept the guys that were really good last year. They kept Rui, they kept D'Lo, they kept Austin Reeves, they kept Jared Vanderbilt, and they added depth to it. They added wing, great perimeter defenders like Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish, and they suck for what they should be. They really do. AD's playing, really good. LeBron plays good, but a lot of the complementary pieces are not nearly to the level I thought they were going to be. But again, Memphis is disappointing, but none of it's really necessarily their fault. But for a team that's relatively healthy, that should be a lot better, I'd say the Lakers.
Well, you talk about the Lakers, like they made it to the conference finals last year, and they returned that team and better. And obviously, there's still a ton of season left. I think they're in the play-in right now. I think.
Yeah,
same spot as the Bulls are, I think, at 9 or something. And they're good enough to maybe make a run, right? But you can't put yourself in this hole again of playing in a play-in and trying to win 2 games and whatever. So my team is the Warriors, and we've talked about it on our podcast and whatever. They went out and got Chris Paul. Chris Paul has been a dud, right?
He's been hurt,
right? But even when he was playing, him and Curry did not complement each other as well as I think some people thought. I was always skeptical on that because I feel like Curry has an ability to just obviously create his own shot and whatever. And Chris Paul is just a facilitator, right? So I didn't know how well they were going to pair up together. And obviously injuries would happen, whatever. Clay's been old, right? Like Klay Thompson's showing signs of getting old. It's the same thing, right? They're trying to take a team that won a championship however long ago and kind of roll out with the same thing, roll out the same product, and it's just not working. Curry's still playing unbelievable. I think he's leading the league in most 3-pointers.
Yeah, I mean, he had 60 a few nights ago.
So he's dropping 5 threes a night. Like he's still doing Curry things, but nobody's there to pair up with him. And in a league where you need multiple, I don't want to say stars, but you need multiple scorers. The Warriors don't have that, and it's been a disappointment for me.
Can I touch on that real quick?
Yeah, of course.
The Warriors, I'm not surprised they're bad because right when they traded Jordan Poole, who I thought could be a star on his own team, not looking great so far. But in his role in Golden State, I mean, they won a championship. I thought like trading him was the biggest mistake of the offseason. Not that he was a superstar by any means, but he fit his complementary role perfectly. And you need those guys to win a championship. And they did it once. Wiggins has been a really, really bad this year. I don't know what happened to him. Draymond Green is his own worst enemy. I think the reason for him is he's losing not the very little athleticism he already had. So now he's just aggressive and he's just hurting himself and the team. So because now he's not like the most athletic, he's getting older. So now he's just relying on his grittiness, but it's over grittiness causing him to get suspended and do crazy stuff. But I'm not surprised they're bad because right when they traded Jordan Poole for Chris Paul, like I don't get it. It was just buying into Stephen Curry. Mike Dunleavy was the new GM this season, and he was all about buying into Steph Curry, which I get. But there's a point where it's detrimental, and we're seeing it now. And same with Steve Kerr. He's not even playing. I mean, he's starting to play Kuminga more now, but Kuminga plays great when he gets minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of the young guys on the Warriors roster play really good when they get minutes, but Steve Kerr just doesn't do it. So I mean, it's kind of their own fault.
There's got to be change coming there. I mean, you got to figure after the season they're projected to have. There's got to be some change there. That's again, I don't know, but that's just my opinion. There's going to have to be some major change in Golden State if they want to win a championship again.
The regression of Wiggins has been really jarring to me.
Yeah.
But I think the Jordan Poole trade for Chris Paul, I think it was just a glorified salary dump. I mean, they gave Jordan Poole a lot of money, over $100 million. And now with the new CBA you talked about, if you get into the upper apron, the taxes really it's almost crippling for an owner. So,
but for the Warriors, it's like they don't care because they've had so much money on the books. And I mean, if this was me, Draymond Green would have been gone, but obviously they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I get why they chose Jordan Poole over trading Draymond Green on their end, but it makes no sense.
Yeah. I want to talk about a team that's disappointed me, and I want to ask you about them. I had the Suns finishing first in the West. They were my finals pick before the year. And obviously they can put it together. They have a great squad, but they're not really, it's not showing up in terms of wins, losses. I know they've had some guys out, but what is your take on the Suns so far?
So you were just talking about the CBA, and I completely agree. You can only have 3 max spots, and the rest of them have to be really, really bad contracts. And that's literally what the Suns are. I thought they had a pretty good offseason for the cap space they had left after Beal, Durant, and Booker, but they're just not performing. I mean, you're expecting guys that have never really had major roles to take bigger roles. Drew Eubanks off the bench or Keita Bates-Diop. I mean, guys that like are solid, 11th, 12th guys on a roster, but now they're like the 8th, 9th guys on a roster and they're just not taking a jump that they should. They're doing a lot better now than they were because Beal was out. He missed a lot of time. I mean, he seemed like he would play, get hurt, 2 weeks, come back, get hurt, but he's finally healthy as of now. He has a mask. I'm not sure what happened to his face, but there's one of those teams that are kind of like showing the new CBA and the future of that. Because I mean, if they should be in the Western Conference Finals, like they should be a lock based off their talent, but they have a bunch of minimum contract guys that are now playing above their means of what they usually have been in their career.
Yeah. That's a great take. With the new CBA we talked about, it's crippling to some teams to try to build a roster. And we have those 3 players. Very before Beal came back, it was very almost deja vu probably for Durant of the Nets with Harden and Irving. With this group of 3 isn't together and not playing. But we're gonna move over to the East now. Number 1 is your beloved Boston Celtics. They have the best record in the league. Before the last few slip ups at home, they have been lost at home, but now they've lost 2 or 3 games at home. 2 games at home. 2 is Milwaukee. Obviously, they fired Adrian Griffin, bringing.
Oh, no, you're right. It's 3. You're right.
The 3, and I'm beating.
I don't even know what that third one is.
Number 2 is Milwaukee. Again, fired Andrew Griffin. Doc Rivers came in. Has already blown 2 fourth-quarter leads. It's kind of funny. 3 is Cleveland. They've been on one recently. Again, Donovan Mitchell I think is turning into one of the more underrated players in the league playing in Cleveland. Again, not a lot of national televised games in Cleveland. 4 is the Knicks. No one had a better January than the Knicks. Jalen Brunson is playing at a second-team All-NBA level. He's been unreal. 5 is Philly. We're going to see how they do without Embiid. 6, we talk about Indy. 7, my beloved Orlando Magic. I think one of the most surprising teams so far. They've been awesome. 8 is Miami. Had a tough loss last night to the Clippers. 9 is Chicago. 10, Atlanta. We're going to get all-star snubs. I think Trae Young might have been snubbed. What he's doing. He'll probably get in as one of the injury replacements, but he's been unreal. 11 is Brooklyn and 12 is Toronto. So out of those teams, what's been the most surprising to you?
Surprising in a good way would have to be. I feel like they're all kind of like doing what they should be doing. Like I don't want to say the Pacers because I expected them to be a lot better, but I don't know. I'm gonna say the Knicks. Not that I thought they would be bad, but I didn't think they'd be this dominant. And especially, I know they had to trade quickly because they weren't going to pay him. RJ's contract, he just wasn't living up to it. So it was a great trade. But for OG, but they killed that trade. I mean, OG is a perfect fit. So I know
Yeah,
it's not the best answer because I don't think any team's like super, super surprising. Like I believed in the Magic, I believed in the Pacers, but I didn't think the Knicks were going to be this dominant. So I'll say them.
yeah, I agree with you. I still have my doubts going into a playoff series with the Knicks. Of course, Stephen A. Smith is a big Knicks guy. I don't see the Knicks going to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's just me. I just think they're going to have to play one of Boston and Milwaukee to get there, unless something crazy happens like last year with Miami. And I just don't think they have the horses to do that. But I mean, they've been unreal. Julius Randle has been better. Sometimes he takes some really bad shots to me, a lot of questionable ones. And I agree with you. My Eastern Conference one is the Knicks, just because I didn't think that they would be this good. I didn't think they would have a 13-2 month like they had in January.
Yeah.
They've been unreal. Again, Jalen Brunson has been probably behind Shea and Luka, maybe the best guard in the league.
Oh, yeah.
I know Dame got the start over him in the All-Star game, but he's been unreal. And I think the Magic have been a surprise. I think they got out really strong. I think how good Paolo has been as a playmaker has been surprising to me. He's been really good. Goga Badatsi plays real minutes for the Magic sometimes. Kind of gives you a thing with what they're doing. And, you know, they're the fifth best defense in the league. When Jonathan Isaac is healthy and out there, man, they're you know, very competitive defensively.
Yeah, I'm also gonna say the Knicks. As far as the standings going to East, I think this is pretty much how I had it preseason. But I think that Dante DiVincenzo especially is playing really, really well. He's just hitting so many shots for them consistently, especially over this last month. He's really taken off. And I've watched a lot of Knicks games kind of randomly, but I know we're gonna get MVP later, and this isn't gonna be my pick. But I think Jalen Brunson deserves some votes because I don't know where this Knicks team is without him. I mean, he's carrying them in my opinion. So that's my surprising team. Again, I think I had him 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But as a Pacer fan, I would much rather play Cleveland than the Knicks in round 1. So.
Yeah, I agree with what you said earlier about I'm not really surprised by any of these teams. Like I kind of hinted at it earlier when we talked about the West. I'm gonna say it now about the East. I am gonna be utterly so shocked if the East is not the finals winner. Like if the winner does not come out of the East, I will be so surprised. For me,
those Clippers, they're pretty good.
Correct, but they're what, the 3 seed right now, 3-4 seed. So I'm saying when I take the top of the East and the top of the West, I mean the top of the East is just so much better with Boston and Milwaukee compared to those 2 teams that we talked about with OKC and Minnesota. Not maybe I kind of got a little Canadian Minnesota there, but not being ready to win an NBA Finals for me. So when I look at the East, I just look at dominance, right? Boston's unreal. Milwaukee is that Dame trade is working very well for them in Milwaukee. So my 2 surprising teams are going to be the Knicks for sure, and then Cleveland as well. I knew Cleveland was going to be good, but them being this dominant, like you said, they're a big team.
Yeah.
Like they are a big team, and last year they kind of showed some signs of, you know, maybe being ready to win. And sure enough, they came out this season and they're competing very well in the East. But again, I'd be so surprised if the winner does not come out of the East. And that's just what I've seen so far through the season. It could be awful. The West might dominate in 4. They might sweep the finals, but who knows?
I just think we're kind of having again, I hope the Celtics win as a fan, and I think they have one of the best chances, if not the best, but I'd still put probably the Nuggets above them and the Clippers, just because the Clippers have figured it out and they have experience with Kawhi, of course.
Yeah.
The Nuggets just won the championship, and the Celtics, I'm still waiting to see, and hopefully it'll happen this year, Tatum and Brown really show the league they're better than everyone else. They do it. I need to see it when it matters.
And I think in the West, those teams at the bottom are old. The bottom of the playoffs are old. They don't care about home court advantage. They care about getting in and then going to take care of business. So I think it's really good for the league, though. OKC, Minnesota are 1 and 2. But if the Clippers go to OKC in round 2.
Oh, yeah.
I think we know who's favored in that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think I love Boston. What Porzingis has done for that team in terms of he's kind of, to me, like Al Horford on steroids. That you still get the perimeter shooting with Porzingis, but a little bit more rim protection with him, with Big Al, of course, beloved Florida Gator, at his age.
Say Al Horford and Porzingis are a little different, but
I'm talking about in terms of space on the floor.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Do you have a disappointing team in the East?
I mean, I think the only answer has to be the Hawks.
Yeah.
Me at least. I mean, the Bulls, again, they're disappointing, but we kind of already touched on why.
Yeah.
The Hawks, they have no excuse. I mean, they really don't. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, maybe they don't complement each other as well, but I mean, it's like Trae Young is a premier scorer, a great facilitator, terrible on defense. DeJounte Murray should be good on defense. He's kind of fallen off the past couple of years in Atlanta, but I just love the makeup of their roster. I always have since like this core has been together for a couple of years now. And, they fired Nick McMillan. They thought that was the problem. They bring in Quinn Snyder, and they still can't. I don't know what the problem is. They still can't win. And they can't find a good trade partner for DeJounte Murray, so I don't know what they're going to do. But they're definitely.
I love that. When they traded for DeJounte Murray, they came off the Eastern Conference Finals run, and I was like, man, this is awesome. This is when DeJounte had that great season with the Spurs, brought him to the play-in. Pretty sure lost to the Pelicans that year, but he was one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. And I'm like, wow, he's coming to Atlanta. Him and Trae Young are really about to do stuff. And what they did was take the Celtics to 6.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool in the first round.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was also my disappointed team.
I'm gonna say the Heat. I never expect them to be like top 4 or anything, but them sitting, what are they at, 8?
Same, right where they were last year. They got right where they want.
I think that's kind of low for that team. I wasn't impressed with their offseason, but I still thought maybe they could avoid a play-in scenario. So, I mean, but again, I don't think there's too many disappointing teams in the East. I think it's shaking up how I kind of thought it would.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the Heat.
Yeah, I'm not. We already talked about it, but the Bulls are the most disappointing team. I mean, as a fan, as just a basketball fan in general, man, Zach LaVine is what I don't dislike many people in the league because they are all way above me in terms of just talent and everything. But man, if I had to pick one, Zach LaVine is a guy that I just don't like very much. Yeah. And as a fan of the Bulls, it hurts to say that, but the Bulls are just super disappointing to me. You're in Chicago, like you're supposed to be good. Like that's just how it's supposed to go. I'm supposed to not watch the Bulls and be upset. In total transparency, I only watch the Bulls to listen to Stacey King. Yeah. Like I only want to listen to the commentator. I don't even want to watch the basketball on the court. So the Bulls for me are just, we talked about it, but they're so disappointing. Yeah. So
it's time.
I have a question. If Lonzo Ball never got hurt, everything's going smooth, where do you think you guys would be right now?
Well, I think you when you talk about that 21-22 season with Lonzo Ball, they were obviously super hot. That's a team that can win some playoff series. Like that was a legitimate, that was when DeMar was playing unreal. Zach LaVine was a good compliment, and Lonzo was, like you said, completely dominant and facilitating the court. But this year with Lonzo, I don't think I think we're better, but I don't think we're a top 4 seed with Lonzo Ball. I think the key pieces, like DeMar is not DeMar, right? LaVine has not been, and who knows with Lonzo Ball, maybe, they're better than they are this year. But the reason I think you're seeing a Kobe White, come up is because of the fact that we're missing those pieces. So I don't think in this year, I don't think Lonzo Ball helps a ton. I think we're maybe a 6 seed, but 2 years ago, if he stays healthy, I think we're one of the best teams in the East. But now I just don't know if that transitions into this season with how good, my opinion, I think the East is.
Yeah, well, I think it's time to give our MVPs. Alex, you can go first. Each team was around 50 games in, give or take. Who's your MVP for a little bit more than halfway through the year?
All right, so my bias MVP is SGA, and I think he can win. But there's someone named, Nikola Jokic, who just is, a point guard as a center, averaging almost a triple-double. It's got to go to him. Now that Joel Embiid's out of the picture, I'd still put Jokic over him, but now that he's completely out of the picture, I got to give it to Jokic.
I'm going to go with Luka.
Yeah.
I think Luka's playing at a high level, maybe the highest level of his career. I mean, I think that's very debatable right now. But like I said earlier, I think Brunson deserves some votes. I really do. Is he going to get them? Probably not. But the Knicks would not be anywhere close to this without Jalen Brunson. But I would go with Luka for right now.
The only problem with Luca is that they're the 8th seed, and I
Right.
love Luca, but I mean, I don't know. I just don't think it will go to. I mean, I love Luca, but that's the only reason why I can't put him higher.
I think the lowest seed MVP to ever win was Westbrook with the Thunder, and they were, I think, a 6th seed that year.
Yeah.
So it'd be tough giving it to the person that was in the plan. But again, Luka's averaging 34, 8, and 9. So
he's one of
he deserves it. He deserves it for sure.
He's one of my favorite players to watch in the league for sure, because what he does is just like he's kind of like the Joker in a sense of you look at him and you're like, why are you doing that against the best athletes in the world? It doesn't make any sense, right? And so I actually am going to stick with you. I'm going to pick the Joker because I think he got snubbed last year. I think that controversy is whatever. Embiid played very well, but I just think the Joker was better and that whatever. And this season he's being, not talked about as much because now we're used to this. We're used to this Nikola Jokic going out there every night and getting a triple-double. And not only is he getting a triple-double, he might have like 20, 18, and 13. Like he's doing it like in a super dominant fashion. But like you would mention, Brunson, I'm excited that we're seeing some new names in this MVP talk. The last years, obviously, it was basically just a 2-man race. This season, you're going to see some new names with Embiid going out due to just the rules and everything. You're going to see some new names slide in there. SGA, he's got a good opportunity. I mean, don't rule him out, right? Don't rule him out because what he's doing for the Thunder as the 1 seed in the West is pretty unreal. So my pick is the Joker just because he's just dominant.
The only reason why SG I don't think can win it is if you look at it as who's more valuable to their team, as hence the name. If you take SGA off the Thunder, I think they're still a top 10 seed in the West.
Yeah.
But if you take Joker off the Nuggets, I mean, Jamal Murray's great, MPJ's great, but they're not gonna, make you still one of the top seeds in the West.
Yeah, and we saw the Nuggets without Porter Jr. and Murray be a 6th seed with only Jokic. So yeah, just to see how good Jokic is. I also have Jokic. I kind of made a top 5. I have Tatum at 5, Luka at 4, Giannis at 3. Giannis is averaging the most quiet 31, 11, and 6 that I've ever seen. Shea at 2 and Jokic at 1. Like I said, I just think there's no more valuable person on a team in the NBA than Jokic. Quickly, who's going to win the finals? You got to pick right now, gun to your head, who's winning the NBA championship?
Celtics. I mean, that's the only answer coming out of my mouth. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like this.
I was going to say the Celtics, and you mentioned you thought the Lakers had the best offseason. I thought the Celtics had the best offseason. Drew Holiday is a winning player, and Porzingis, as far as the spacing and just having a score that's at that size and inside, outside, I think they had the best offseason.
I think to fit their needs, the Lakers had the best offseason, but to completely explode their roster in a surprising way, of course, the Celtics. I mean, I never thought in a million years Marcus Smart would not be on the Celtics, but here we are.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard because I want to go with Boston as well because you had mentioned the Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum kind of just gelling together and showing that they can be on the same court and both just take over the league. And I'm waiting for that as well. But I'm going to go Milwaukee here. I think Giannis is having a great year, right? Obviously getting Dame is huge for them. They've been very good. And I just got to pick something different. We've been picking the same team. So I got to go with the Bucks. Maybe we'll see a Boston, Milwaukee Eastern Conference final, which would be great.
But who's guarding Dame though? The guy they traded, Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk White. I mean, we got a lot of good.
But it's Dame time. Dame. It doesn't matter who's guarding Dame.
I've never really seen him show up that much in the playoffs.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, yeah, not a lot of opportunity.
Except in the first few rounds, obviously he has some crazy shots. But after that, I mean,
and Dame has been horrid defensively this year.
So bad.
The Bucks as a whole is horrid defensively this year. I think the teams that's going to win has to be top 10 in offense and either in the top 15 in defense. Normally it's top 10, but the Nuggets won it being in that 15 to 10 range. And there's a few teams like that. Boston, the Clippers, 76ers, and the Thunder are the teams that kind of fit that mold. I don't think there's a better starting 5 in the league than Boston. I mean, Derek White was getting some all-star love and deservedly.
He got mine.
Yeah, he's been unreal. Again, I love the Porzingis trade.
Jersey. Yeah.
But I'm gonna change mine up even for my preseason pick. I picked the Suns in the preseason. I'm going with the Clippers. I just think they break through. I think Tyronn Lue somehow became an underrated coach throughout this time. And I think there is very few players that have ever performed better on the biggest stage than Kawhi Leonard. And that, I mean, he's back. That man is back. He's playing back-to-backs. I mean, they got a back-to-back tonight, and he's playing, and he's been really good. And I think James Harden's been really good for them. I mean, they got Russ to come off the bench and sometimes start, sometimes come off the bench, and it's just the energizer bunny whenever they need him. So I really like the Clippers. They kind of fit the mold. They're 11th in defense, but they're 4th in offense. They've been the best offense since December 1st. So yeah, give me the Clippers as of right now.
There we go.
I love that. I mean, I have no problem with that one. There's nothing I want more after the Celtics than for Russell Westbrook to win a championship. Because the only reason why I'm an SGA fan is because I was originally a Thunder fan from Westbrook. So I mean, there's nothing I want more than that.
Sure, our generation definitely grew up with the Durant, Westbrook, the Thunder. But
I got one question for you. So it can be in the finals, it could be a first round matchup. What is one matchup, East or West, that you just have to see happen? Playoffs.
Good one. I would say just based off the pure entertainment value so far this season of it, I'm saying Pacers Bucks. I don't know how that will line up necessarily right now, but the Pacers Bucks have just been insane. They've played each other so many times, and they've all been great matchups.
The play-in
tournament, messed that all up. But the Celtics and Pacers have been really entertaining, but nowhere near as much as Pacers Bucks. I would say that for sure.
Yeah.
How about you get
a question because I gotta know you're a basketball guy. So who's your GOAT? I need to know who the greatest of all time is.
It's actually flipped a couple times.
Okay.
So was Michael Jordan forever because I was just growing up, whatever. And then it was LeBron.
Oh, it's flipped again.
And now it's back to Jordan.
There we go. Let's go. I LeBron guy here.
So. I'm not a big LeBron guy.
I look at it this way. This is a good analogy. Tom Brady has 7 rings. He'll be the GOAT. Right? Patrick Mahomes is way more athletic, can scramble, can probably throw a little bit better than Tom Brady. That's LeBron James. But he won't have the accolades most likely that Tom Brady has or Michael Jordan. So I have the GOAT and then the best player. LeBron can pass. He can do everything. He can do everything on the court. Jordan couldn't necessarily, wasn't the best facilitator. I think he was a better defender overall because he won a depoy, which was crazy. But so that's how I look at it. Brady and Mahomes, Jordan, LeBron.
I like that analogy, except for the fact that I think Mahomes has a possibility of maybe passing Brady one day.
I don't.
So
Brady's beat him twice in the playoffs.
We'll see. I mean, because there's still a long way to go for Mahomes, but as a New Englander, Brady fan, if you got my whole thing right here,
and the Bucks,
man, you got some shrines in there.
Let's go Bucks. I mean, they're gonna be, let's go.
But I think at Michael Jordan's peak, there is no better player in the history of the league than Michael Jordan. I don't think there's a single player, maybe besides Bill Russell, that's had a better career than LeBron James. So that's kind of how I look at it. At Jordan's peak, his peak, whatever, when he was averaging 36 a game, doing all that crazy stuff, I don't think there's a better NBA player ever. But I don't think no one will ever have the run that LeBron's had, and I don't think anyone will have as good of a career as LeBron has ever had.
We could the whole pot.
People are scared to play Jordan. I don't know many people who are terrified to play LeBron. People are probably more scared to play Kobe. I don't think he's better than LeBron. But Kobe had that mentality from Jordan. LeBron, he's more of a pretty boy.
Yes.
I
love that.
I think everyone during the East, when LeBron went to the finals 10 straight years, were pretty afraid to play LeBron. When he dragged
they weren't
afraid to play LeBron.
They weren't winning that often though.
No one was beating that Warriors team.
They did.
No one is beating Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, all in their prime with LeBron's team. If you put Michael Jordan on the 2018 Cavs, Michael Jordan is not winning the championship.
They weren't afraid of LeBron, though.
Yeah, I think they were afraid of them, him beating them. But physically, I mean, Jordan's just going to tear you up. Mentally, LeBron's not. I mean, I don't really see him talking like that, getting in your head. That's really Jordan and Kobe, the only 2 guys I obviously didn't see Jordan, but the only 2 guys, that would get in your head and mentally and physically tear you down. LeBron's not doing that. He's just going to be on the court and just be better than you.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like that.
Alex, we appreciate you coming on, my guy. Great insight as always. Again, if you want to check him out on YouTube, if you want to shout out your YouTube real quick, where people can find you on social media and everything.
Yeah, Alex Sports CHASEN on YouTube. Go check it out. NBA content, talking about different news. Mostly when I was younger, I made really cringy like 2K videos, but now it's just on news and stuff like that. But yeah, check it out if you want to. I appreciate it.
Maybe we have you on again before the playoffs and give
Yeah.
a little playoff breakdown, but appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. I love the pod. Keep it up.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much.
If you guys made it this far, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, leave a like, share it. Again, special thanks to Alex Chasen for coming on and chatting up with us.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
Peace.